I think that it's a catch-22. I think some people need to develop more quickly, like when they're younger, before the fear sits in, and they build up that muscle memory and the confidence when they're younger. And I think other people are different, where as they mature, they get more body awareness and understand the physics and the biomechanics of the movement. And then it makes sense to them. So then they're learning it from a science standpoint rather than a physical standpoint.
I'm Pam Majumdar, and you're listening to Better Late. I could ask you about the '88 Olympics and everything, but there are other podcasts that covered that. And what I'm really more fascinated by is your comeback later in the 2000s.
Absolutely. So I was a 1987 national champion, cover of Sports Illustrated in 1986, on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, Oprah, the whole nine yards. I had all the media behind me for sure. And then, in 88, I guess the rumor was that I was fat. I'm pretty sure I still have the article from USA Today where it called me fat at 92 pounds, going from I think today they call it a glow up. Well, I guess back then they called it a get fat. And so I think I had a lot of negative press. In fact, if you watch the '88 Olympic trials, you'll hear the commentators say that I have my mother's genetic makeup, and they'll pan to my mom in the audience who was obese, over 300 pounds, about 4 feet 11. And, things that they today would get in so much trouble for. And, I'm just supposed to be 100% healthy from it all, of course. So anyway, I think after all of that, I hated the sport. I wanted nothing to do with it. Being an alternate on a team in which, the year before I was the national champion, it was really difficult for me and it's still difficult to go back and watch my performances in '87 and compare them to '88 and really not see a whole lot of difference, but see like my vault in particular, 4/10 difference. I went from a 10.0 to a 9.6. Definitely, I felt the political animosity and the way the politics of the sport worked. I didn't understand it at 16. I just thought that I was no good and that I was fat, and that if I'm fat, people aren't going to like me and I'm not good enough. So basically, I quit the sport when I thought I was going to the Olympics up until the day they left, and which is when I was told that the second alternate was not traveling. And so I left. I went back home to Louisiana and I became a cheerleader and had a lot of fun as a teenager and went on to college and cheered in college at LSU. And then all of a sudden one day I was studying theater and journalism because I am an entertainer more so than an athlete ever. I was an entertainer and I still to this day love performing. A manager from New York City called my house in Louisiana. And I'm like, you are kidding me. Oh my God, this is like a dream come true. And so I went and auditioned and got a commercial and moved to New York shortly thereafter when that semester of college was over and started an acting career where I starred in a movie within like 5 months of being in New York City. Um, Runway modeled for Francois Gerbeau and Fashion Show in the Park, did several commercials, did stunt work for several films, and I danced professionally with a dance company up there and had a wonderful, amazing time and really just started to enjoy my life and started to feel proud of who I was and started to really become my own person. And one of our rehearsals for our dance company was in a gymnastics gym. And the atmosphere in that gym was like no other that I had remembered from when I was a kid. It was positive, the kids were laughing, it was upbeat, and I was like, "Wow, that was pretty cool." And, the owners of the gym asked my now husband, back then boyfriend, if he thought I would wanna come in there and coach or teach, and he was like, "She hates this sport, buddy. There's nothing you're gonna do that's gonna make her come in here." And I was like, "Sure, I'll coach 2 days a week." And so it just kind of started like that. I started coaching, and then the owner of the gym, Bruce Petty and Kelly Alliger Keen, they were talking to my husband, and I was like, "I dare her to come back. I bet she can make a comeback. The code of points is made for her." And so they gave me the code of points, I read the code of points. It's like, I can do a 2.5 twist punch front, and that's worth as much or more than a full in back out. I could do this. And so they dared me, and I ended up, finding my love of the sport. Not for being an Olympian or not for being a national champion, but just for the love of being involved in the sport that I was at 27 years old, still pretty talented at. And so that's how I made my comeback.
So that had been it was about 10 to 11 years after you had stopped completely?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
You did cheerleading after and dance, so you were definitely still involved in it's not like you went from that to being a couch potato, you're still active for sure, but still, it's a bit long time away.
It's absolutely. I couldn't do a leg lift, and I couldn't do a glide kip.
Wow, like a leg lift on, like, a ball
Seriously.
bar? How did so ho what was that like for you? Like,
Yep.
how many months did it take to get back into just the physical shape and regain the strength to even think about doing skills?
Yeah. So basically in 96 when I did the film, 94 I did the film. It was released in 95. I did some gymnastics in the film. So I did do a little bit of trying to get back in shape, but I couldn't do a kip then either. And so then that was from 95 to 99. And so I didn't do any more gymnastics during that point other than tumbling for dance and that sort of thing. And I definitely took dance classes in New York City and enjoyed the art of learning dance. So when I made the comeback, the first day in the gym, I couldn't do a kip, couldn't do a leg lift. I could jump to a handstand on the bars, and I could swing giants, no problem. And
Wow.
I did like 8 or 9 real tumbling passes, and my calves got in the biggest cramp. I'm like, we need to rethink this.
Mhm, mhm.
So I literally made a list of all of the conditioning exercises that I needed to get before I would start doing gymnastics again. And that list, day one, took me about 6 hours to get through.
Wow.
And I did that same list, a couple of different lists, but about the same type of, workout movements for about 3 months. And it started out at about 6 hours for the first 2 weeks. And then I was like 5, 4. And then it got to where I could get through everything in about 2.5 to 3 hours.
Mhm.
And that took about 3.5 to 4 months. And then day one back in the gym after that, I could do every single skill I could ever do. I
Wow.
could do Takachevs, Gingers, Jaegers, Yurchenko fulls, double backs, triple fulls. I mean, all not on a hard floor, but I mean, a lot of that was done on the hard floor because they didn't have a pit where I was training. So, yeah, it was about a good 3.5 to 4 months of physical preparation. Yeah, a good 3.5 to 4 months,
How many days a week were you doing that for 3.5 months?
like 4 to 6.
Oh my god.
I started out training every other day so that my body had a full day of recovery. And then about 6 weeks into it, I would go 2 days on, day off, 2 days on, day off. And then probably at about the 3 months, maybe 3.5 months, I was going like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I'm really curious about the list. Do you remember what kind of things you had on there? Because I think people don't talk about this enough. It always seems like they like elites the way it's framed in the media or on social media. It's like, oh, like a few weeks and I got into shape and then I had everything again. But 3 months of doing it 6 days a week sounds more realistic.
Oh, absolutely. And those were, I would start out doing like press handstands to me is just the absolute must. You have to be able to do a press handstand. You have to be able to do a cast handstand. You have to be able to climb the rope. You have to have a certain amount of vertical jump and calf strength. So, a lot of the list was trying to get back just the physical abilities, which was press handstand. So, the day one, I would try to just hold myself up in a straddle L and then get a spot to where I could press to my feet. Then I'd walk up to the wall and do 10 presses against the wall and then try to come from a handstand and press back down. Like you would totally deconstruct the skills that were the basic skills, totally deconstruct them and start, the first part, the middle part, and the end part, and then perfect each of those and then try to put them all together. Included in that list was definitely rope climbs without any legs, to the right side, to the left side, in a straddle, up and down, leg lifts, straight up, around the world leg lifts, handstand holds, Basically, most of your tops conditioning and our physical abilities testing for our national team was a starting point. And then how do you progress to be able to do that? So you would kind of deconstruct those things down to the basics, releve walks, calf raises, and then you start adding weights and then you start adding reps. And I did a lot of training on the beach. So I did a lot of sprinting in the sand, jumping in the sand. It's a different form of resistance training without the impact of heavy weights.
What was that like that period of time when you were just doing the conditioning? What was that like for you mentally? Was it difficult because you were used to just the emotional aspect of being the best, and now all of a sudden you can't, you can do these skills in your head, but physically it's almost like you never had them in the first place?
I think I'm a little bit of a rebel. And so when someone kind of tells me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. So I think, I don't know, that's my motivation. When someone tells me that's not possible, you can't do that, I'd be like, watch this. And I really don't care how long it takes. I'm a pretty focused and determined person that when I set my mind to something, I'm going to get it done. And so I didn't look at it necessarily as a mental I didn't look at it as a struggle mentally at all. It was more of a driving force to get better. Instead of having to do it, I wanted to do it because I wanted to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you
Is that
definitely
that?
did. Yeah. So then months you're back, you're getting your skills back. And then no, we didn't talk about, was Bella Crowley your coach in the 80s? I can't remember when you were growing up.
Yes, I was a curly kid. I was one of Bella and Marta's prodigies. I was right after Mary Lou.
After the Olympics and you were told that as a second alternate you weren't going and you quit, did they have any reaction to that?
I didn't hear from them ever. I didn't hear from anybody ever. Anyone. No one from the federation, not my coaches, not really even my teammates until my birthday. Um, yeah, it was very lonely. It was very, I didn't realize it then, but I realize it now. And I think now when I have athletes that leave our program, I mean, I probably reach out to them once a year, minimum, if not more, just to let them know that they were loved, appreciated, they have value to their life, and our relationship and our connection meant something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I asked that because when you were doing your comeback, it sounds for the most part it was very self-driven. I don't know if did you have any coaches? You said that you had coaches, for example, assisting you with the straddle up or the press. So
Yeah.
you had some assistance, but it wasn't the same team as before, for sure.
Oh my gosh, no, this was a little tiny club up in New Jersey that I walked into because we were rehearsing for um I worked with, like I said, a dance company, and we were doing some rehearsal there at their gym for some reason. And it was just a wonderful atmosphere filled with laughter. And, you know, I think Rita's Italian Ice at least once a week was brought in to motivate the kids. And it was just such a different, um, I'd never remembered gymnastics like that.
What was your first competition back? Was it the classic? Because I remember watching it on TV. I remember, like, I don't know if they did a montage in your comeback, but I definitely knew who you were. So I remember it was like, I think you were at nationals, but I can't remember what if that was your first one back or not.
That was not. I actually had to go through the entire qualification process again, like any other athlete that's trying to be an elite level gymnast. Back then, they had what they called zone meets. And so I literally had to go to a zone meet and compete and qualify to go to the classics. And then I had to go to classics and compete to qualify for championships. And so I did that for 2 years.
Wow.
And it was honestly, I made it to championships both years. So I can't complain. I would have loved to have been able to go to Olympic trials, but I really wasn't that good. So it was totally fine. But I loved every minute of being able to accomplish a challenge that at that time, no other 27-year-olds were doing that level of gymnastics. I mean, you'll see it now more with like Oksana, and then Chelsea made a comeback, and now some of our Olympians are making a comeback. But during that time, I was definitely a first.
So I think Bella and Marta were like behind the scenes around that time.
National team.
Did they ever
Yeah.
talk to you then? Like, did you end up having a conversation or did they ever say anything to you then?
Absolutely. They were so extremely proud of me and were like, I can't believe this. You are amazing. You are a beautiful gymnast. Like, oh, I mean, just they were very proud to see me do that. And I mean, possibly, I don't know that I can say that they were honored that I was their gymnast before or anything like that, but they were very encouraging.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear. I'm glad to hear that.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were very encouraging. And even through, I judge now, and every time I would see them, I probably have a better relationship, well, had, because Bella's not doing that great right now. But some of the best conversations ever were when I was judging and was just able to sit down and talk to them adult to adult, or at least to Bella, adult to adult, and to hear how proud he was of me and what I had accomplished and where I was in my life and how he was proud of me. And he told me that multiple times every time I saw him. So I think that relationship was very strong during the 2000s, all of 2000s up until here recently, when it's just a little bit harder for him because of where he is in his life and his age and that sort of thing. But I just saw him less than a year ago, back in October, and he big bear hug, super nice. Just I can't believe you're just so good. I'm so proud of you. And
Oh.
no joke, it still feels really good to get that bear hug. Not gonna lie.
So you said you competed at nationals, but you didn't, I think, qualify to trials in 2000.
Right.
When did you decide that, okay, the
Why
comeback?
did I stop?
Hmm.
The code of points changed. So
Oh,
I was like, "Yep, I can't work this code of points for my benefit. I have to do the full and back outs and the double Arabians and the Yurchenko double fulls and all that kind of really hard, powerful stuff." Which my body, um, I am so lucky. I've never had a surgery from the sport ever. So I think I'm very, very, very lucky. But in January of 2020, not 2020, in January of 2000, I actually dislocated my ankle when I fell off the high bar and my foot kind of stuck up on the side of my leg. It just totally like turned up. I didn't break anything, but I kind of tore all the ligaments and was told that I would probably never do gymnastics again. But 6 months later, I was competing. So again, they told me I couldn't. Wanted to prove to them I could. And I think that was just kind of a little bit scary for me, not being able to, not that I wasn't able to perform, but that I could get injured. That was the first time like I'd ever really gotten injured. And I really was enjoying doing stunt work and film work and dancing with the dance company. So I didn't want to take any risk with that. And then we ended up moving out of New Jersey down to North Carolina during, I think, October, November of 2020. So it just kind of was a time to start over. And we moved here to kind of start a family and to start building a family instead of just working on ourselves.
yeah, yeah. So it sounds like the decision to stop in 2000 compared to 1988 was much better and way different. You had a whole different life and support system.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we came down to North Carolina, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life because I had been in the entertainment industry and then gymnastics and I kind of looked at opening my own gym. And then this lady found out that I was going to open my own gym. And so she was opening a state of the art facility, something I could never afford. So I went to work for her. And then, long story short, that didn't work. Went to work for someone else, ended up purchasing the equipment and I started my own gym in 2004.
Wow. And you still have that gym today?
I do, yes.
So you're still coaching now, right?
I have really kind of stopped coaching for the most part for several reasons, but the main reason being is growing up, my children were always second to everybody else's children. I took care of everybody else's children before I took care of my own, and they're now in high school and realized I have like 4 years left with them. So I want to be a mom. I want to be their mom and build a good, strong relationship with them before they venture out into the world. Something that I never had and something that I want with my children.
Yeah. Yeah. Are any of them gymnasts?
What they were all started out in gymnastics and then tumbling and trampoline. My one daughter, Eberly, went all the way to level 9. She was like state and regional champion level 9. And she just decided it was too much. She didn't want to do it. And I think I didn't realize it at the time, but I once told her, I was like, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you like it. And I was like, whoa, that was pretty powerful, mom. And sure enough, like she just had gotten to the point where she, not because of me, but because of herself, kind of felt like she would never be as good as me. And she thought she was going to disappoint me if she quit. And I told her, I was like, this is the easiest decision ever. You're done. I could tell she wanted to be done a couple of years beforehand because her whole attitude and atmosphere of the gym changed, in the gym changed. And I made her quit. And then we went to therapy together. And the therapist was like, you cannot make her quit. This is going to have to be her decision. If not, she's going to blame you the rest of her life. I'm like, you're right, but I know she doesn't want to do it anymore. So let her back in and took about a year and a half. And sure enough, she wanted to be done. And she's found cheerleading, which is what I found after gymnastics. And she loves it. And I love that she loves it. And it's a lot less stress and pressure, but a lot more fun. So she deserves that back. My other daughter did gymnastics, but wasn't, and she's a twin. So there were twins doing gymnastics. And the other one was always a little bit better. So that was really hard for the other one. So she went into dance and danced for, I guess, 4 or 5 years. Amazing dancer and performer. She definitely gets that from me. She loves to perform. And then she went into diving actually and was a great diver. At I think 11 or 12, was invited to their elite training team. And then all of a sudden one day she looked at me, she goes, Mom, I am never going to do all those flips off the high tower. I'm done. I'm like, okay, you can be done. And then now she's cheerleading too. So they found their way.
So what is your relationship with gymnastics today?
In 2000, I got my judging. I started judging at a level 10 level, and I did that for 4 years. Then I opened my gym in 2004, and then I took my international judging test in 2005, and I have been judging worldwide since 2005. I sit on an international technical committee, it's the PAGU. It's our union. It's the union that the United States is in, North America, South America, Central America. Our union is called PAGU, the Pan American Gymnastics Union. And I sit on a technical committee that makes the rules and policies for that union. And I just judged world championships back in November.
Oh, wow.
And I'll be judging like Pan American Games and all of that and all that good stuff. So yeah, I judge at a very high Olympic level. I haven't judged the Olympics yet, but that's definitely something that I got my eyes set on if it's meant to be.
But yeah, you're saying, okay, so you haven't judged the Olympics yet, but that is something that's still on your list of things you want to do. I mean, I'm sure you will.
If it's meant to be, it will be. Again, there's no like roadway or pathway to get there. You just kind of have to be lucky. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. What is that like for you to having been somebody who competed on that world stage and that level, and then to go to these international meets? Is it different? Do you feel nervous? I mean, I guess it's not the same thing as being a coach, but you'll see like the American team, and what is going through your mind when you see these athletes and you know exactly what it's like to be in their shoes.
You know what? Absolutely. And I think that as a former athlete and also a coach, I have a very unique perspective because I think back in the day, there was definitely a lot of politics that went on and gifts that were given and money that exchanged hands. And I didn't really know the extent of it until more recently in my life, which really makes me sick to my stomach. So that is one of the things I really, really appreciate about the new system of the difficulty and the execution, and the athletes have to do the difficulty to get the start value and that sort of thing. I really appreciate that as an athlete instead of just having this one score that everybody can have the qualifications for. And then it just comes down to sometimes politics. So I love my role in the sport now, that having been that athlete, I would never do anything that would jeopardize the integrity of the sport. And for those athletes to get I mean, I might not always be right. Don't get me wrong, but I will always put down on my paper exactly what I saw and my judgment, and I won't be persuaded by anyone else because it's my job and my duty and my oath that I've taken to give each athlete their absolute most fair chance at letting the standings finish where they should.
Do you have a favorite event to judge, or do you only judge a few events? I wasn't sure.
No, we have to be able to judge all of the events. I think my favorite event to judge is floor. I think like anybody, just because it's so entertaining, some of it. And I love to be able to differentiate in the artistic presentation. I think that that takes a unique eye and a unique spirit to be able to feel the artistic expression throughout the dance, and having a dance background and knowing what a turned out foot looks like versus a sickled foot, and a forced arch and a high arch, and a passe and a coupe versus just the leg flailing around wherever it wanted to be. I think being able to spot that very quickly, those are all part of the artistic expression and interpretation of the routine. I think I have a good eye for that. And so I enjoy being on floor because I think that I can help differentiate the really best and most unique and creative routines from the ones that just kind of look like a cookie cutter routine.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
the same on beam.
Yeah.
Because personally, to me, beam is ugly. It is not the artistic event that it once was in this, 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, right now it's like trick, pose, pose, trick, pose, pose, leap, leap, turn, trick, pose, pose, dismount. Like it's not pretty. It's not there's not a lot of expression. Although I have seen a few athletes in a few countries that are really starting to put up a good presentation. In fact, I went to see the NC State versus Michigan State competition last weekend, and let me tell you, Michigan State has some of the absolute best balance beam choreography that I've seen in a really, really, really long time as a team. There were highs and lows, there were unique little rhythms. It wasn't cookie cutter at all, and I really, if I can get one message across to the world of gymnastics through this, is watch Michigan State and their choreography and presentation on beam. It was fabulous. It just caught my eye, and, I mean, I do have a former athlete on the team, so I was watching it, but even, like, I could just feel the movement and the interpretation, and it was unique choreography. It wasn't just the cookie cutter pose, 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 shake, shake, hip check, whatever. It was really, really good.
Do you think that the current code of points rewards difficulty too much, like puts too much emphasis? Do you think that's why the artistry, at least on balance beam, isn't quite as there?
I definitely think that it definitely plays a part in it. There's just only so much time that you're allowed, and you've got to get 8 skills and 4 requirements, and there's just not enough time to have in between the moves to actually kind of let it flow. You know what I mean? I think Ellie Black did a pretty good job at World Championships with her artistry on balance beam, but it's definitely something that as you mature, I think that comes out more too in the confidence and the interpretation of the movements on the beam. But yeah, I think there's just not quite enough time to get in all of the requirements. And so that's one of the limiting factors. I also think that if they would maybe do a bonus system instead of a negative system with artistry, you might see better artistry. Instead of just taking away from them for not doing it, give them a bonus per se for doing it.
Have you
I
ever
don't know
thought
if that
about
makes
trying
sense.
to migrate to that side of like working with the code of points, like internationally, rather?
That I do get to do that on a small fraction of the basis with the technical committee that I sit on with Pagu. But in order to make a difference, a real difference, it would have to be on the FIG technical committee. So that would be a wonderful opportunity for sure, but a lot of responsibility and a lot of commitment. And so that's just something that my country would have to support and have a desire for me to do as well. So we'll, I guess, see where that goes. I have no idea.
Well, Kristie, it's been such a pleasure talking with you. I just have one more question, and I ask this about everybody. I just have to ask, like, do you still go into the gym and play around now? Like, is there any desire in the back of your mind to just try it again?
Not at a competitive level, but yeah, I probably once or twice a year, I'll go in and do like double backs off the tumble track, double fulls. Up until I was 47, I did Takachos and Ginkers. But
Wow.
now that I've turned 50, I'm like, I'm done. I'm pretty sure I'm done. Yeah, I think if you go on Facebook maybe or YouTube, I think it's on YouTube. and search out 47-year-old Takachev. It'll pop up.
Wow.
And maybe the Ginger too. And my husband put that up there a while ago.
That's
So yeah.
amazing.
It's either 47 or 45. I can't remember. It's been a long time ago.
Are those just muscle memory, or I mean, those do require a lot of upper body strength though too, right? Or would you say not as
Yeah, and I think as when I was coaching, when I was coaching more and doing a lot more spotting, I kept a lot more muscle mass. Like I did a lot of upper body strength training with other people, spotting other people on a daily basis. Spotting cast handstands, spotting clear hips. That gets spotting press handstand push-ups, all of that gives the coach just as much of a workout as the athletes.
Yes.
Especially when you're spotting 10 kids 10 times, you've just done 100 clear hips or 100 handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't really do that anymore, and I need to get into the gym and work out because I haven't done that in a while.
So my audience is it's a lot of former gymnasts who maybe reached like level 8, 9, and they're coming back as adults. And there are some who are doing it for the first time as adults. Any advice or words of wisdom for, I know that's a very broad audience, but any words of wisdom for adults who are doing gymnastics now?
My advice is definitely be smart and listen to your body. You are not a kid. You have to put in the physical preparation before you try the skills, or you will get hurt. And the injuries from the sport, I just don't want our sport to get a bad reputation that everybody gets injured because these adults are doing gymnastics and they haven't done the physical preparation to be able to do the skills that they want to do. So take your time, be consistent with your physical preparation on a daily basis because most of these adult classes may be 1 day or 2 days a week. But with gymnastics, the physical preparation has to happen at least 5 days a week just to keep the flexibility, the strength, and all of that in check.
If Kristie Phillips needed 3 months to physically prepare herself, every adult should keep that in mind because we certainly don't have your athletic background. So that
Yeah, and at the same time, though, 3 months got me back to a level of competitive skills, not the endurance that I needed to put together a routine,
oh
but to do elite level skills.
oh wow.
So, yeah. So, I would say, but maybe, you know what? Putting all that in perspective, that was my body type and that was what my body was trained for. So, depending on what your body was trained for before, I would say 3 months is a minimum of good physical preparation before you start a real gymnastics class. And I would say the best form of workout would be something in a CrossFit nature because they do a lot of upper body development in CrossFit and a lot of body weight development. And I think it's a very good crossover sport.
Thank you for listening to this episode of